All right, I'll see if I can catch up some more, but we got to move on. One of the all-time greats called it a career this past weekend. Demetrious Johnson retired from the sport of mixed martial arts. Johnson has one of the most decorated MMA resumes. He is a legend and will be a Hall of Famer. Let's cut to DJ letting us know it's a wrap. This is from this past week.
Denver, show some love to the GOAT, Demetrious Mighty Mouse Johnson!
Yeah, before I do that, it's been a long, amazing career. And before I, do the big announcement, I know y'all want to see your boy, get in there, but first, I want to say thank you to, give me this mic, Mitch, God damn it. First off, I want to say thank you so much to the fans. You guys have always been amazing to me to live out my dreams and show my passion through martial arts. I want to say thank you to all of my teammates from the very beginning, back in 2006, all the way to 2024. It's been a long journey. Thank you to Matt. He's like my. Thank you to Matt. Thank you to Matt. Thank you to my wife. Thank you to my wife. Thank you to my children. My mother-in-law, father-in-law. Get shit together, dog. Like I said last time, when I came here to Denver, Colorado, I told you guys that was potentially my last fight, and I was not lying. Like, I am done. I am done competing in mixed martial arts, and I want to say thank you guys so much for giving me the opportunity. Appreciate you guys.
He was giving a reaction, by the way, to Matt Hume, who's his longtime coach, and he's also an executive with one championship, and he actually also fought for the UFC. Big name in our sport, actually. Guys, react, man. One of the greatest hangs up the gloves. Danny?
Yeah, absolute legend, Demetrious Johnson. And I'm glad that we saw a little bit of emotion from him. I mean, you guys, Goes and George, have interviewed him a lot over the past years. And you guys know how he always kind of plays down his career a little bit in the sense that he's like, oh, this is kind of just a job for me. And, I'm so much more than a fighter. And obviously he is. But being an all-time great, like, it almost feels like some fans cared more about his career than he himself cared about it. It just seems like this was something that he was really good at and kind of just took it as a job. But seeing that emotion of him, like, clearly shows that he values the sport a ton and his career and all that. And it was nice to see. It was nice to see. And one of the greatest of all time, in my opinion, the most versatile fighter in the history of the sport. I mean, you see it there on the highlights, submissions, knockouts. He could wrestle. He could strike at a high level. I mean, in his prime, the dude was untouchable. And it's crazy that we talk about him as one of the greatest of all time. I think all of you guys can agree. But yet I feel like he's still somewhat underrated, right? Like, I feel like this guy should be way more popular than he is, even though he is popular, and just way more respected and revered in the sport. But again, just a great ambassador of the sport, and what a pleasure it was to follow and cover his career. Truly an all-time great, and there's never going to be another Demetrious Johnson.
Great stuff, Danny. Nolan, we'll come to you in a second, but look at the chat's blowing up. Scott Christian says Mighty Mouse was awesome and still is. What a great champion. Skype's and El Daddy says definitely an emotional moment for him when he was thanking his fam. Joseph Boza says meaning one championship new. They got lucky when Dana and the UFC were too stupid to trade this man for Ben Askren. And Chris Goes Wild says Demetrious Johnson is great. Nolan, what are your thoughts on one of the best hanging it up?
Yeah, I mean, it's no secret, right? You move up in weight classes, you gain power. You move down in weight classes and you see an elevated level of technique. And for him to dominate at 125 pounds, the lightest viable division in MMA on the male side, it says a lot. I mean, he was a trailblazer. He was a pioneer for the smaller divisions. I know at times he didn't necessarily get the respect that he deserved from the fans. sometimes from promotions, but he will go down in history as one of the best to ever do it. And I've said this before, there aren't really many happy endings in MMA. We see guys, our favorite fighters, everybody's favorite fighters get beat up, they get knocked out, they stick around too long. So it is refreshing when guys decide to walk away when their legacies aren't totally tainted, or when we haven't seen them kind of getting absolutely pummeled in fights. So good on him for knowing when it was time. He seems like a guy that's done a good job of handling the business side of the fight game outside of the cage as well. So I'm hoping that he continues to do that and thrive, whether it's in the gaming community or elsewhere. So one of the best to ever do it. Like Danny said, he probably will never get the respect that he deserves. But I think for those in the know and those who have watched enough fights, that this guy, just how truly special he was, it's even kind of hard to put into words.
Mark England in the chat says, an absolute ambassador for the sport. Thank you, Mighty Mouse. Dana really dropped the ball trading him for Askren. Missed out on Johnson versus Moreno. Figueiredo, Pantoja might have a point. 40's Glass in the chat. He's coming through Facebook. You can listen on Facebook or YouTube. See you guys in Vegas this weekend. All right, I'm sure he was a Demetrious Johnson fan. Ben says, I'll never forget the armbar on Ray Borg. Joseph Boza says, 33-4-1 record he retired with. I think he was frustrated towards the end of his UFC run. Dana hated this man because he got a dozen defenses. Just short of that, that's for sure. Quay Stefan says, seems like he still has more in the tank. He did get 12, one at one championship, and 11 in the UFC. I'll go over that in just a second. Goes, your thoughts?
I think this guy was just the absolute blueprint of what you want to do with a career in mixed martial arts, not just in the cage, but outside the cage. Inside the cage, he was a tremendous fighter. He was an excellent person outside of the cage. We've gotten to know him over the years. When have you ever pointed at Demetrious Johnson and said, oh, I don't think this guy was prepared for this fight, or he didn't give it his all? Like, this dude was a soldier every single fight. If you're a fighter, you want to look at this guy's career and you want to say, I want to be just like this guy. I think he's going out at the perfect time for him. When we always talk about it, right? Why do you have to wait for that moment that kind of ushers you out of the sport? Take initiative and just be that person to walk away when it's time. I think Demetrious Johnson, even though he has probably some gas left in the tank, I think this was the right time. And what a career. I mean, thank you for everything that you've done, not just for our sport, but, also for our show, George. Demetrious Johnson played a big role in our show, and we love having him on.
For sure. He was at our 2000s shows, I recall. He was on quite a few times. Guy was awesome, man. I'll go over that in just a second. Sky Beason says he was lucky enough to meet him in Denver. Quay Stefan says, only happy endings in MMA come in the post-fight massage. Greg Eckert in Facebook says, how is UFC going to spin the love for the Mighty Mouse when they put him in the Hall of Fame? Great question, Greg Eckert. Again, coming through Facebook. Our former colleague John Morgan spoke with Dana, and Dana was appreciative of his career, kind of didn't give it the most love, but he did say he will go in the UFC Hall of Fame. But yeah, that just wasn't the best ending. I mean, almost the whole flyweight division went at one point, but that is interesting. If we have time at the end, maybe we'll talk about Askren versus Johnson, that trade, because it was pretty big. But listen, he won the UFC's original flyweight tournament, which crowned him as the inaugural UFC flyweight champ. He also defended it 11 straight times, guys, staying undefeated for 5 years. He won the one championship flyweight Grand Prix. That took 3 fights to win that Grand Prix belt. Then he fought for the one championship flyweight title. Also defended that strap one. That's where the dozen title defenses come from. 11 in the UFC, one over at one. And he also won his trilogy series against another tough guy in Adriano Moraes. He beat a lot of former champions in the UFC and from all over the world, including Kid Yamamoto, Miguel Torres, Henry Cejudo, who he went 1-1 with, to be fair. And oh yeah, did you guys know he went 14-2 as a bantamweight? All that other stuff I said was flyweight, which is pretty iconic stuff that he did. But he was also 14-2 as a bantamweight. Tremendous career, Demetrious Johnson. Bravo, sir. I guess I got to sneak it in. Who got the better of the trade, guys? Quick, Danny?
I mean, you got to weigh in like the sporting stuff and also the media stuff. Like, I know people hate on Ben Askren, but like he did cause a huge stir, right? He did give birth to Jorge Masvidal, who went on to become a star in solo and headline many pay-per-views for the UFC. So it's a bit of a tough conversation, but if we're just sticking with sporting side, yeah, Demetrious is by far the way better fighter. I mean, he's a legend. So on that end, the UFC lost.
Nolan, who got the better? Quick.
Kind of a wash. I mean, Askren's impact in those 2 fights, I think we saw it with the attention that he got from the numbers and everything. I think that year he was one of maybe the #1 star in terms of interest on our site. So I don't know. I guess when you get a GOAT, I guess you win, but it's not the skill doesn't tell the story, you know?
Goes?
I think for personally for Demetrious Johnson, it's probably what he needed in his career. But if you want to talk about his legacy, he probably could have done more had he stayed in the UFC.
This is a great comment, by the way, and then we'll move on. This comes from Neo Arc 00. Demetrious Jones, GSP, Habib, and Boss Rudin in having that perfect retirement. Interesting, because I think it was Nolan that was saying, how many times are we looking for that type of an exit, and some fighters just can't seem to get it. Who knows if John Jones is kind of laying the foundation for a perfect exit too, because he certainly, I don't want to get into the whole Aspinall thing, but you guys know what I mean. All right, again, Demetrious, man, one of the greatest, and I can't wait for him to get inducted into the Hall of Fame. Listen.